And now, it's time for The Dating Doctor.
Prescribed by Dr. Carlos
and Physicians Assistant Steve Estrada.
But it's must have been good.
Must have been something.
But I didn't have the principles in place.
You know, we're back. We're back. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh my God, I can't believe the 4th week. This is for all you bingers out there. I know you've been binging on us.
S1-E4.
S1-E4. Series 1, Episode 4. For the bingers. The Dating Doctor's good. I've been binging myself. I got to get those numbers up on YouTube. You know what I mean? But today I want to introduce our team. So you got myself, Carlos Mendez, the Dating Doctor, your host. And I also have with me the PA, Physician's Assistant, Steve Estrada.
Good afternoon.
And we also have a new guest today, all the way from the Ukraine, Marina.
Hi, everybody.
She's here. We also have Sean Sneed.
Hello, hello.
The weekly, by popular demand. People keep sending messages. They want them back.
Extended.
You know, over Steve's and I's, we keep saying no, but they want him on. So he keeps coming back. It's all good. So today it's interesting. We're going to follow up on our episode 3, where we were talking about, do you deserve a good relationship? Right? Because not only should someone earn their way into your life, but you also need to be that person so that you can deserve that relationship. So today we're going to be talking about that and expanding. Last week we got through 5 of the 12 principles. And so this week we're going to continue on with principle 7. I just want to give you a little bit of an intro here and some information. I did some reading for you guys so I can expand on some of the materials that we're talking about. So here on the Dating Doctor, we strive to impart wisdom to help you achieve high levels of satisfaction in self-management and relationships. In my opinion, the best way to do this is through education and implementation of principles. Now, principles are like guidelines for human conduct. They are proven to have enduring, permanent value. They are fundamental. They are essentially unarguable because they're self-evident. So, let me talk a little bit about today's climate. There's a glitter to conventional thinking, a glitter in dating websites, in social media. It's a massive appeal. The appeal is that there's some quick and easy way to achieve quality of life. The appeal is that you can achieve personal effectiveness and achieve rich, deep relationships with other people without going through the natural process of work and growth, without achieving first a level of maturity, which is a requirement to achieving all of this. Where do you rate on emotional maturity? If we use a scale of 1 to 10, where would you land? To relate effectively with a spouse, children, friends, or a working associate, we must learn to listen. And this requires emotional strength. Listening involves patience, openness, respect, and the desire to understand. But these are highly developed qualities of character. In fact, they run short in most people. It is a good measure of our emotional maturity. Our level of development is fairly obvious when we speak of things like tennis or piano playing, where it is impossible to pretend. But it is not so obvious in the areas of character and emotional development. We can put on an act, and we can say, fake it till you make it. And we can do this for a stranger or even an associate. We can pretend. And for a while, we can get by with it. At least in public. At least in the short run. We may even deceive ourselves. But sooner or later, our true identity is revealed. We cannot hide our true character or emotional maturity. It is true that when stress hits, our true selves come to the surface. The solution, in my opinion, is to work on alignment, on integrity, and on obedience to principles. As I was doing some of my reading this weekend, I came across a word that I wanted to share with you guys. The word is degeneration. The word comes from degenerate. And the definition of degenerate is lacking the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered desirable. So the questions are, do you deserve good health? Are you doing what it takes to get it? Eating, exercising. Do you deserve financial independence? Many people want it. Many people want money. They stress out about it. Are they doing what is necessary, what they can, everything they can to do it within reason? Do they deserve it? And then lastly, do you deserve great relationships? What are you doing to improve yourself? Including, what are you doing to improve your selection process of the people that you spend time with? So the question is, do you deserve great relationships? Now, you want to make sure you're doing all that you can to deserve this and all that you want in life. And that the person you choose to spend time with, if not the rest of your life with, also does all within their power to deserve you and the additional things they want in life. So that's my little intro for the week. I want to say God bless you all. And now I'm going to bring on our PA. Physician's Assistant Steve Estrada. We're going to continue with the 12 principles most relatable to good relationships. So, Steve?
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. And as always, those were the truest of wisdoms shared by our illustrious Dr. Mendez.
Truest wisdom.
All
Truest
right.
wisdom.
Truest wisdom. So we're picking up where we left off last week, and we're going to start with the principle of courage. Now, I made a little joke last week about, it reminded me of the cowardly lion from The Wizard of Oz. Courage. But I've got to tell you that it certainly motivates me to go forward with this particular principle. We talk a lot here, Doctor, about that principle and how some of us might view it a little bit differently than what seems to be the obvious take. And so as we talk about courage in the context of relationship, we're looking at that role that we may play when it comes to this. And the example that comes to mind immediately is, do we have the courage to hold people accountable? Do we have courage to ask questions? Do we have the courage then to accept that what may happen is that we don't necessarily like the answers? And then do we have the courage to maybe give an opinion, make a recommendation that might be counter to what that individual shared with you? The other part of it, of course, is that you have then a clear picture of, do you want to stay with that situation? For example, someone you're considering dating, or do you want to step away and say, you know what, I've just learned something that is a deal breaker. This is not something I can go forward with. Do you have the courage to do that? And I think, Doctor, we've talked a lot about this.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
Courage.
Do we have our diving tanks on?
They're going deep.
It's time to go deep.
I think we're gonna need it.
Submarines, get ready.
We need it. Scuba gear. Scuba gear. You know what? We should get into the scuba gear industry so we can sell some of those when we're talking about these principles.
So let's do it.
You know, some of these ideas, man. I'll tell you. Our singing, our scuba gear, dude.
Maybe scuba gear is safer.
Billions. You know what? Look, courage. Courage is interesting, right? Courage is not, beating someone to a pulp. In fact, it's not valor. Courage is a word that at the basics, it means that we are able to ask what we want, ask for what we want. And in life, it is extremely courageous to be able to do that on a consistent basis, because we tend to trade in courage for being a pleasant individual. So we buy relationships and bottle in our needs. So courage is about being able to ask someone, regardless of how difficult that person is, for what you need. And it is said that maturity, in part, is defined by your ability to be courageous and considerate. And in the middle, we call you mature. That means you can ask for what you want, but you do it always considering the party that you engage with. So courage tends to be very elusive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do you think, Mr. Sneed?
I think too often, in a relationships, people do sell themselves short, and because of that very reason, they lack the courage to, speak for themselves, really, like what they want or what they need in the other person, in a partner, the other half.
Yeah.
So I can see that's the common thing. I see people's relationships, and look at my my own is that people will kind of sell themselves short.
Absolutely. And you know, Marina, I'll ask you a question. If you don't share with people what you want, where does that leave you?
You lose in the end anyway.
You lose in the end anyway.
I think that, as we know, the most powerful emotions that people can experience are either love or fear. And not asking questions and trying to ease another person out of fear to lose them is something that makes us lose our time and take the time of the other person and keep going in these circles of short-term relationship where we don't belong.
Yeah.
And I think it comes from a state of fear.
Yeah. And would you agree that it'll end up in misery or end up in you bottling it up, which then it's all misery.
Poor result either way.
Poor result.
Poor result either way.
Well, Steve, PA, take us into the first break here.
Be courageous. Be courageous. Okay, folks, we're going to be heading into our first break. But before we do that, let me remind you, you're listening to The Dating Doctor on KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 and 106.5 FM in the Inland Empire. And The Dating Doctor is brought to you today by meetingsinglesnow.com, where we bring you the best events to meet quality singles.
See you on the other side, folks.
I'm gonna miss you. I can't lie. Understand me, won't you try?
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt me. I can't lie. Take my handkerchief to wipe your eyes. Maybe you will find another guy. Well, let's kiss and say goodbye, pretty baby. Please, don't you cry. Understand me, won't you try? Let's just kiss and say
Wave goodbye. All right. So, man, you better have liked that because that was our best. That was our best.
I still think we can do better.
You think we can do better?
Still think we can do better.
You know, a little practice might get us there, you know?
A little practice.
I agree.
A little practice.
I agree.
So we're getting back into it, folks. We just talked about the principle of courage. Now we're going to the principle of honesty. And I think all of us, as we look at this on the surface, can say, yeah, honesty is important. It's very important. But again, we're in the same realm as the discussion on courage. What does this really mean when you break it down and you look at it in detail? Honesty about how we represent ourselves, of course, is, I think, the fundamental way to start with this principle. But what's going to happen is if we are with someone that values the approach that we're trying to teach here, which is, now we're going to get into a date that I had last Sunday evening, my first date in a while since I broke up with my last girl.
That's right.
And we went through the Dirty Dozen. And for those of you that don't remember the Dirty Dozen, we will be revisiting the Dirty Dozen on a regular basis.
Dun, dun, dun.
But what happened was we were able to share with each other some real honesty. We were admitting things that we might not would have wanted to admit in a first date scenario. But I said, work with me on this. Would you be open to it? And she said, absolutely. So we went through all 12 questions. And I've got to tell you guys that when we get someone to be honest with us, and of course we're participating in the same way, It's very refreshing. It's very enlightening, and it is a much better process than what I traditionally would have gone by, which is, gosh, she's got pretty blue eyes. And that's where it began and ended. But there's more to it now, folks. Doctor, I know you agree.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, man. So what's honesty? In the terms, as it relates to, do you deserve a good relationship? Do you deserve a good relationship?
Absolutely.
What is honesty? Well, let me ask this. Would it work if I was not honest?
No.
Well, then that's how you know
Yeah.
honesty is a principle. It stands on its own, is unarguable. What do you try and teach your children? To lie or to be honest?
Honesty is the best policy.
That's a great point.
But yet, when we grow up, what do? Are we always honest?
No.
Do we teach our children to also sometimes not be honest by our actions?
Absolutely.
By example, unfortunately, yes.
Right. So honesty, we know we all want it. We want it in our children. We want it in our relationships.
You know, it's kind of like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
You can't handle the truth. And that breeds that thinking. You know, we start thinking, well, that person, they don't want to hear it. So,
Yes.
because they're not receptive to whatever it is, that, the matter is.
You can't handle the truth.
Tell them what
so
they
you
want to
can't-
hear.
You can't tell them the truth. So,
Yeah.
you do, the little white lie thing,
Absolutely.
and
Right?
and you reap what you sow, as you so eloquently pointed out last week.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to expect somebody, we talked about it earlier, Marina. You're not going to go on a date with a guy and he's going to tell you, oh, hey, I'm happy to meet you today. The last 2 nights I've met a couple of other great looking girls, and tomorrow night I have another date, and I'm hoping this one goes, the way I want it to go.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. I mean, they're never going to be that honest, right? But the question is, do you want honesty in your relationships? And do you want honesty in the person that you are engaging with? What do you think, Marina?
Absolutely. I believe that honesty directly reflects the level of maturity of a person. And it's not only about wanting another person to be honest with us,
Mm-hmm.
but to be mature enough to be honest with that person. And why I believe it's important, because you can pretend being someone who you're not, and you can create this beautiful image and make hundreds of people like you, like that image that you've created. But in the end, you'll never really know who are the people in your life that are there because of you and love you for who you are, unless
True.
you are honest with them about who you are and what you want. And the best thing you can do for yourself in a relationship is being honest with other people and tell them, I'm not perfect. I made mistakes.
Admitting it. That's
Can
what I
you
learned.
accept me the way I am with my imperfections? And if they stay,
They know.
you're lucky.
There you go. There you go. All right. So honesty, folks, no joke.
That was
It's a
good.
great place to start. Start with honesty, and you're going to point yourself in the right direction. Okay, the
That
next
was good.
principle we want to talk about is collaboration. Now, this one might be a tricky one. What does collaboration have to do with a relationship? Well, we talk a lot about collaboration in the workplace, because you got to work with people, and you have team members, and you have, I think, a variety of skill sets. You also have a variety of levels of energy and maybe just interest to contribute. But collaboration is a huge part of a relationship. You can think of a marriage. I can't think of a more collaborative environment than a marriage, because if you are two people that come together as independents and you then create this interdependent relationship, and we talk about interdependency and how important that is, you have an opportunity to achieve great things in that dynamic between those two partners. But it's going to absolutely require, it'll be a mandatory requirement that you work together as best you can for the skill sets that you have and for the visions that you have. And where those visions cross and intersect, the potential to really do special things is there. The groundwork has been laid. And Doctor, I know I look at you and your wife, your beautiful wife, and there's a great example there. There's a great example there, and we're all benefit from watching you guys do what you guys do.
Collaboration. You know, in fact, I'm a little upset with her. She's not binging. She's not binging, man.
She's not binging today?
Yeah, no, she hasn't been. She hasn't. I think she listened to one of them. She ain't listened to the others. She said she don't like my singing, which I take personal. You know what I'm saying?
We might get some more practice in there.
I ain't playing those games, man.
Hey, it goes back to honesty.
Honestly. See, that's how it works. That's why it works. You know? So, you got children, right? So your children, they collaborate with their teammates in their little sports team. They collaborate with the coaches. Sooner or later, what happens from all that collaboration?
Hopefully they grow.
They grow, inevitably.
Experience wonderful things.
Inevitably. Why? They're playing together. They're learning from the coaches. They are working together for one goal. That's what's called collaboration, right? They have a vision. They go after it, right?
That's right.
So that's your children. Now, what about you? At work, you show up to work. There is a directive laid out. There is a vision laid out. There is a mission statement laid out. There's what you want. There's what the company wants. There's the middle, right? Can you achieve what you want by achieving what the company wants? And most people don't believe that is true. In fact, it is the most effective way for you to achieve what you want when you help others achieve what they want.
Absolutely.
That's a lesson in and of itself.
That is, and that's called collaboration. Synergy, as I mentioned on one of the previous, episodes. But speaking about relationships with intimate spouses or, in your dating game situation, collaboration. You want to find out fast. Are you, first of all, collaborative? Are they collaborative? Are they willing to work on the vision together, on the goals together, right? Because if not, I'm telling you right now, if you got two people working separately in different directions, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
So pay attention to collaboration as a principle. What do you think about collaboration? Is that something that you understand well, Marina?
I think that we have no powers by ourselves in any type of relationship. Romantic relationship, work relationship.
Scuba gear.
I believe that we can achieve the things that we want to achieve only with help of other people.
That's right. I agree. 100%. 100%. We can only do what we can do by ourselves. When you've heard this phrase that says, 2 heads are better than 1. Well, that's in a relationship. But think of 5 heads or 10 heads all coming together, collaborating, and creating whatever that vision is that you all share.
Yeah.
It's the right way to go. Right way to go.
What you guys need?
I want to add that collaboration, it tends to be like when 2 people get together in a relationship, that relationship becomes it's like a union, like a synergy. So those 2 people together aren't the same as, like myself with my wife is not the same with myself and an ex-girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like the 2 people combined bring a synergy to it. And if there's a collaboration, then that it almost like its own identity.
Yes.
You form you
Sure.
kind of become you identify with your, her family and her with your family. You know what I mean? Like I guess that's what
There's a ripple effect. Absolutely. Carries over.
it's I think as Marina said, we're nothing without everybody.
There you go.
So there's me doing the best I can. There's my colleagues, my daughter, my wife. Everybody's doing the best they can. And then together, we can accomplish much more than any one of those entities by themselves.
That's right. That's right.
So look for collaboration.
Collaboration. You didn't think about it before in the context of your relationships. Please start thinking about it now because it makes a lot of sense. All right, our next principle is the principle of industry. Are you industrious? This, again, is a very simple understanding in terms of the opposite of the word. And, of course, the opposite of industry is lazy.
Lazy.
And I don't know too many people that are looking for a lazy partner. And if you are, that's weird.
It is weird.
That's just straight up weird.
Yeah.
So industry, obviously, we think of it in terms of maybe our careers, what we're doing at the workplace from Monday through Friday, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. But step away from that for just a minute. We're talking about the dating world and relationships here as it factors into the word. And what level of effort are you making in that relationship? What are you doing to make that relationship be the best that it can be? And our starting point, Doctor, and we talk about this all the time, is are you working on yourself?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to be the best you can be, whatever else you involve yourself in is going to be enhanced just because you've taken that responsibility on.
Yeah.
And you're the key to contributing one more piece to the puzzle that's going to make that puzzle come together.
Yeah.
So for me, that's how I represent industry.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm going to break it down again. I'm going to tell you, because all of this stuff is about relationships. So the interesting thing is here, can you be a great parent and be lazy in the occupation of parenthood? No, there's a lot you got to do.
A lot.
To raise responsible, law-abiding, contributing children into adulthood with those principles.
That's right.
You can't be lazy.
No.
You got to be diligent. Hence, industrious.
Very important responsibility.
Okay, that's with children as a parent. Okay, what about at work? How about that relationship? The relationship you have with your boss and your co-workers.
Your team.
Right? Yeah, what about
team? Absolutely.
Can you be lazy? Can people afford you being lazy?
I don't think so.
No, they don't want it. They don't want it. Right?
Yeah,
and
it just doesn't fly. It doesn't fly.
No, it doesn't fly. And then with your spouse, can you be lazy?
Not for long.
Nope.
It all takes diligence to be great, to be good, to even suffice. Industry. What do you think, Marina?
No, I absolutely agree with you that it's very important to be continuously developing yourself in all aspects of your relationships. Even if the world is moving too fast nowadays, and everything around us is developing so fast that even to be an average, you need to run. You want to be
Good point.
above the average. It takes a lot more hard work.
Listen, while the world moves, you can't be laying on the couch, right? You got to be up and kicking.
Get in the game.
Absolutely.
Get in the game.
All these principles tied. Mr. Sneed.
Sprint to it, right?
Sprint to it? All right.
All right. You're listening to The Dating Doctor on KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 and 106.5 FM in the Inland Empire. The Dating Doctor is brought to you by Canarium Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy. the latest innovation in the pursuit of optimal health.
And we're going to come back and cover some more principles after the show, not the show, but after this next commercial break. So we'll talk to you on the other side. She's so fresh. She's fresh, fresh.
Very exciting.
Exciting.
All right, folks. Let me remind you, you're listening to The Dating Doctor on KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 and 106.5 FM in the Inland Empire. And The Dating Doctor is brought to you by meetingsinglesnow.com, where we bring you the best events to meet quality singles.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're picking up where we left off with the foundational principles. We're now on to temperament. And I've talked a little bit about my challenges with temperament. I'm going to share with you my date that this subject had to come up. But what I want to make very clear is we all have that opportunity to throw fish back into the sea, but a lot of us don't do that. And that's generally going to be a mistake most of the time. I'll safely say most of the time. So what you want to do is you want to look at somebody and you want to measure and gauge what their temperament is like. And if they're a road rager, or they get upset because the waiter brought the wrong thing, or something that should be manageable and dealt with calmness and peacefulness and just being a good, friendly person, you might want to run the other way quickly. We talk about going deep. Just jump off the boat and start swimming. Because temperament and tempers and all that anger stuff, you want nothing to do with it. Right, doctor?
Nothing.
That's right.
Nothing. Do you deserve a good relationship? That's today's topic. It's part 2, but it's today's topic. Let me tell you this. If you have a temperament, you're not going to deserve a good relationship. Because it's going to be too hard to continue on with a stress-free relationship. Temperament can be a deterrent to happiness, to joy. And if you allow someone to become an integral part of your life, to be that significant other, and they have temperament, and you know it, and you continue, it's safe to say you do not deserve a good relationship because your selection process is not in place and it's not disciplined. So, Sean, temperament.
Yes, doctor. Dating doctor. Carlos. I think the temperament thing is, I think that every time we get into a relationship, or go begin a relationship, or just begin dating, that's the furthest thing from someone's mind. I think, my experience has been like, when I've been single and dating, it was the furthest thing from my mind was like the person's temperament. It wasn't, I never thought,
that is important.
Principles here.
Yeah, that's important.
That was important, right?
But how important it is, because like you say, you're setting yourself up for failure, or misery, or
years of misery.
Yeah,
that's the guarantee I can give you. I don't know about anything else. That's
guaranteed. 100% money back, guaranteed.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's good. It goes back to self-control too.
Absolutely.
That's right.
What about Ukraine? What do you think, Marina? Tell me what happens out there. Temperament is the subject here.
I've actually been doing a lot of research on that topic lately, and we try to understand people using different approaches, like gender, background, age, horoscope signs, and different things. However, there had been many researches made on how we are different, and there's a lot of significant proof that there are 16 types of personalities, which communicate, feel, act in a different way, and understanding the temperament of the other person and understanding their nature,
Mm-hmm.
as well as understanding our nature, can be a defining factor of how our relationship is going to
Work out.
Either it's going to fail or it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think absolutely there are different ways of how people understand and think
Mm-hmm.
and behave that we need to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
when we're dealing with an individual, just
Mm-hmm.
from understanding their nature and their kind of temperament.
Yep.
Temperament matters. I agree, 100%.
Temperament.
Temperament matters. All right, folks, let's move on here. We are now going to talk about the principle of compassion. And I've got to tell you, this is something that I ignored in the past, and I do not ignore it anymore. In fact, the date I keep talking about, she made it very clear to me how important being compassionate is to her as she looks at a potential mate. And I said, well, amen to that, because now that I am understanding the value that being a compassionate person represents, I too, going forward, make that a very, very important requirement of what I'm looking for. Because we're talking about compassion towards humanity, towards the things here on earth, not just each other, but whether it's folks walking down the street, whether it's a puppy dog running across the road. Compassion is something that if you don't have compassion now, you want to develop it and work on it, because you're missing a real human trait that should be part of all of us. Doctor, we've talked about compassion.
Yep. Yep. Compassion is simple, right? And you gotta be on the lookout, right? Because you're on your first date, right?
Yep.
And the person across the table is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
pretty blue eyes.
Yeah, and you may be thinking gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I tell you what, it's not hard to see. Speaking of behaviors, if the person is compassionate, because right away, if you see signs of their superiority over others and their lack of humility, the good bet, is that there's little compassion. And let me ask you, are you compassionate? Before we go, off into the other person, because what are you?
That's right. Starts with us.
Because I'll tell you this, if you're not compassionate, you're not going to meet a compassionate person, because they don't want to be with someone who is not compassionate.
That's right.
I know I don't.
Guilty by association.
If I'm with someone and I look and they are behaving like they are above us all, above humanity, not humble, they don't love humanity. Narcissist. Or even in the spectrum, it could be below that. But,
Sure.
There's tendencies, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be with that person. And if you're with someone like that, you don't deserve a good relationship, because it will come crashing down on you later if you invite those kind of things into your life. Right? What do you think, Mr. Sean Sneed?
No, I think that's exactly true. I mean, you have to. I mean, everybody's got to be a good human being. You have to have a certain level of compassion. You can't, to go into just relationships aside, just to be a good human being. So when you lack that, I mean, pretty much everything else kind of crumbles underneath. Without compassion, what other qualities are you bringing? You know what I mean?
It's foundational.
Yeah.
Foundational.
So what do you think, Marina?
I think compassion for me in relationship is being able to listen and to be heard. We don't always need an advice, but we often need someone's shoulder next to us who would say, everything's going to be okay. I understand how you feel. I'm with you. And
There you go.
That's a good point.
a lot of times that is a lot more important than have someone trying to find a solution to your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because only you know how you can resolve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
Only you know about the situation more than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And compassion for me is very, very important in a relationship.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're unanimous on compassion. I think
Compassion.
that's a unanimous one.
I want to add to that what she said. When you have like, sometimes you need somebody just to cry, like just to hear you out. I mean, you don't need advice. Is that what you're trying to say? Like the person. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're like clear on that. The person who, because like my wife always would say, you know, I don't need your advice. I just need you to listen.
Right.
That's what she's saying, I think.
Yeah.
You just need to listen. You don't need to solve her problems. Okay, folks, so let's move on to our final principle, the principle of personal development, or we like to call it growth. And I don't need to expound on this too much, but I would suggest that if you're listening to The Dating Doctor and you're a binge listener, we love you, number one. But number two, you are working on personal development. You
Yes.
are working on your growth, because that's what our show is all about. If it's about anything, it's about that. Right, Doctor?
That is it. We've designed it for that. And I myself, on every day, I do growing, I do personal development, whether it's audio or reading material. I'm advancing my mind and my capabilities on a daily basis. So give me some closing statements real quick. First, Marina.
I'm the person who is always trying to improve myself in all aspects of my life, and I like to balance everything. So for me, I only see myself with the person who has the same vision and
There
never
you go.
stops.
Perfect.
Good. That's perfect.
Never stops developing and growing.
Yes.
And
Mr. Sean.
Well, I think as individuals, you know, apply these principles and grow, I think the rest of the dating world, as we're out, if those who are single that are in the world, they'll find that the dating becomes much easier and much more efficient, because you're able to weed it out quicker. You know, the people who you don't want to be with.
Weed
All
them
right.
out.
All right, guys. That's our 4th episode. Thank you, PA, for leading the show. Thank you, Marina, for being part of us today. Sean, and we'll talk to you next week. Same bad channel.